All right, welcome to the special Thursday edition of Buck What You Heard. This is the NFC South division. I've got some very good friends of mine that I've met over the years, and I really appreciate their take on sports. So I decided to have them on. Gregg Barber will be representing the New Orleans Saints. Cody is with the C3 podcast. And I've been on there several times, and those guys, we go way back to almost the beginning. Scott Carasik, we've had him on before. I love his take on sports, and it was just a good idea to get him on as well. And of course, this guy here, KB, not to be mistaken for Shaq Barrett. This is Kim Barrett, and he will be representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm sorry for the late start, but we're going to jump right into this. And I do want to start with Atlanta. And Scott, I wanted to get your thoughts on what is Atlanta going to look like, or what are they trying to look like this year in the 2021 season based on what we saw from 2020?
They're going to look completely different than what they did last year. They had a lot of different issues last year related to the combination of bad defense. They had bad offense. They had a horrible coordinator coaching the offense. They had a horrible coordinator coaching the defense. And yeah, I know Dan Quinn was the coordinator coaching the defense, but they weren't motivated. They weren't talented. They had just all sorts of issues. So
how comfortable are you with the new staff that Atlanta's bringing in right now?
Wait and see. I wanted Bieniemy in the worst possible way. I think he is probably the absolute best coach, coordinator, whatever they could have gotten that would have fit their personnel, fit their talent, fit the city of Atlanta, fit everything. I'm wait and see when it comes to Arthur Smith. There's a lot of good things about Arthur Smith. I love his offensive play design. I love his emphasis on the run game. I love his emphasis on beating people down, running play action heavily. I like that he brings in Dean Pease for his defense, and Pease is going to be coming in, running that multiple scheme, blitz him out the asshole kind of defense that I love. That my favorite defense that I've ever seen scheme-wise was John Tenuta's zone blitz defense at Georgia Tech. Didn't get a lot of credit back in the day, but it was one of the most fun defenses to watch schematically because he'd run so many different blitzes. It was like a Jim Johnson 4-3, but with more blitzing. He probably blitzed 65% of the time if you were counting all the different zone blitzes, but he was only ever sending 5 or 6 guys and making sure he at least had man-to-man or some sort of zone backing him up. So I think we're going to see a lot of that same kind of scheme with Pease, just out of not just a 4-3 or a 4-man front. You're going to see a lot of 3-man fronts, 2-man fronts. They're going to vary it up. They're going to run some amoeba. It's a complex defense that has simple assignments for each player.
Is this going to be one of those things where it's going to take a little bit of time to get adjusted to it? Or is this something that's so simplified that you can plug and play players into that defense?
Certain players are going to have roles that they're already been playing under the Dan Quinn, Raheem Morris. A lot of what they ran with Ulbrich had to do with let's just attack and figure out the best ways to attack. Mm-hmm. So I think when you see the difference between Quinn and Ulbrich, there was a lot of change there. It took them a couple games to adjust. By the end of the season, they were pretty much adjusted to that. I think we're going to be 3 or 4 games from Ulbrich to Pease, but I think when you have training camp in there, like a real training camp in there, when you have OTAs, when you have the actual preseason in there again for 3 games, that's going to help out. They're going to need it to adjust. But certain guys are going to have very similar roles. You're going to see Deion Jones playing that weak side linebacker that he basically plays now. You're going to see Foye Oluokun taking over as the Mike in that defense. They're the inside linebackers. You're going to see Grady Jarrett playing all over the front. He's going to play 1 tech. He's going to play 3 tech. He's going to play 5 tech. Sometimes he'll be out in the 6 or the 7. You're going to see him all over that defensive front. And he's going to be on both sides, and he's going to attack. You're going to see them give guys like John Kaminsky a chance to really ball out. They're going to give guys like Jacob Tuioti-Mariner, JTM. You're going to give him a shot. So, I mean, there's different guys that sparked and that showed positives last year that are going to get shots. Problem is there's no safeties on the roster. The corners that they have, there's 2 that are quality and one's a slot guy, and that's Oliver and Terrell.
Yeah.
I want to see Sheffield come up. I liked Sheffield coming out, had a second-round grade on him coming out, but he disappointed last year. I think in P's defense, he should be a little bit better. But there's just a lot of adjustment. This defense is 2 to 3 years away.
So when you blow up a team like this, and that's basically what Atlanta did, what are the expectations? I mean, as far as fans, I know with salary cap, what are you guys at, like $7 million above the cap? Or
I had it at 9.6.
9.6, I know, something like that. Okay.
Not factoring in the ERFAs they just re-signed. So it's probably closer to like 10.5 right now, 10.6. Honestly, they could
do you see adjustments in salary and in trying to get that number down? Or
they're going to do some simple restructures.
Yeah, will it affect how they go out and get players that they need? I mean, in free agency.
I don't think they're going to be heavy into free agency this year. I think if they get free agents, they're going to look at a lot of minimum salary benefit guys. Guys that they can sign at 1.1 million, but they're only going to count $700K to the cap because they're, just trying to think of a player. Adrian Claiborne would be a great one. Just got released from the Browns, probably his last year in the league. Yeah. You bring him in for the rotation, pay him $1.1 million. He counts $700K to the cap.
Yeah.
Bring in a guy bring back Darqueze Dennard, who was under that benefit last year, only played 8 games. Bring him back for some veteran leadership. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to have to hope to hit on some of these guys that aren't the best player at their position or really more than a replacement guy at their position. But that's what you do. Yeah. And then you draft heavy. And I think the best move they could do is trade down, get a butt ton of picks, and then just bring those picks in.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now you're saying you're developing your core. I mean, I'm just speaking on defense. I know offense, you've got Matt Ryan coming back. You've got Julio Jones, I think, coming back. I think your offense, there are some pieces you can get, and you can get those in the draft. But for the most part, I was focused more on the defense because I felt like that was the biggest problem that Atlanta had was the defense. And
you're returning 10 starters out of the 12 starting guys.
Okay.
You're returning everybody but the starting left guard and the starting running back. Mm-hmm. So when that's all you're not really getting rid of a lot of guys. Yeah, you're losing Alex Mack, but Matt Hennessy was the late season starter because Mack was injured.
Right.
So
and he showed that he could play. So
yeah.
And I know, at the end of the season, they go through and evaluate talent and say, okay, this guy did good. This guy flashed here. He's somebody we can use in this upcoming defense. And that's kind of how you guys are looking at it. Are you comfortable with the defensive coordinator that they're bringing in? I mean, are you happy with that move? And, you think that could be a cornerstone for this team?
Oh, yeah. I think with a guy like Dean Pease, you need to have a guy like him. You need to have someone who is that aggressive, blitzing, destroy them, attack them, kill them kind of defensive coordinator. Has that Gregg Williams mindset without being as dumb as Gregg Williams kind of thing. Sorry.
Yeah, you dumb.
I love his mindset as a defensive coordinator, but he is terrible schematically. His thought process, his anger, the way he attacks people, love. But everything else, I can't deal with him. He's just not a good coordinator.
I like his concept and all that, like you're saying. It's just some of the plays he calls and some of the things he do at the wrong time is just mind-boggling.
He takes chances at the wrong time. You're up 17, there's 4 minutes left, calling an all-out blitz. Yeah, I mean, whatever, no big deal.
Yeah.
I'll do that sometimes in Madden because I'm like, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm already up 17. There's 4 minutes left. If they score a touchdown, I get the ball back. I can just run clock. No big deal.
Right.
If I get a pick six or if I get a sack fumble, that's the benefit of doing something like that. It's a risk reward. Yeah. Gregg Williams is all about risk and doesn't understand that the reward is not going to happen 9 out of 10 times. So he's basically SOL.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. I know you said you didn't have a lot of time with us, and I appreciate you taking time to come on, bro.
Definitely, man. We good or?
Yeah, we're good. Awesome. Hopefully, I'm hoping I can get you on again after the draft so we can kind of revisit this and just see, what each team has done with free agency and with the draft. Hopefully I can get you back on again.
Definitely, man. Wednesdays.
Oh yeah, Wednesdays. We will make it happen. All right. Sorry, hey guys, that was Scott Carasik. Thank you so much, bro.
Thanks, care, y'all.
All right. Okay, so that was Scott, and he was talking about the Atlanta Falcons. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. I mean, what do you guys see from, because we're going to talk about all the teams in the NFC South. Mm-hmm. And I'll start with you, Cody. Because you guys played against them, and those were some really good games. How do you feel about what they've done, and what do they need to do as a team?
Yeah, our most hated rival. They play us tough, man. I have to say it. That it's just the truth. The Falcons are an anomaly to me right now because I really think that even though they have Matt Ryan on that team, I do think that if they're sitting there and Justin Fields or Trey Lance is right there for their picking, especially someone like Trey Lance. I just did a film review on him today on our channel. Such an upside, yet there are a lot of real college style concepts that North Dakota offense is running. Putting him behind Matt Ryan for a few years, they might fall in love with that idea. So at a time when the Panthers needed a quarterback and Atlanta's at number 4, they've definitely been a great concern for Panther fans for that reason. As a football team, it's hard to know, man. Arthur Smith, I do hear a lot of good things about him, but I mean, really, I think time will tell. There's a lot of flux in the NFC South right now. I feel like there's a lot of turnover. Tom Brady is a 1-year thing in the NFC South, and he is a Super Bowl champion. So there's a lot of rebirth amongst a lot of these teams right now, and the Falcons are a great example of that.
Yeah. I personally did not agree with his thoughts on Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule's going to be a good coach. I think he's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong personally.
I do too.
And this is just, I'm an outsider looking in, and just looking at what he's done with what he's had, the way he drafts for speed. And the question when he first came in was, is Matt Rule going to get everybody to buy into what he's trying to do? And the answer is yes, he did. I just don't think that the level of talent was there. I don't think a lot of the cohesiveness was there. I know there were injuries that occurred at inopportune times. So to me, I'm good with that. I think he's going to continue to progress, and I think that team is going to grow. So not to jump off the subject, but I want to get over to Gregg real quick. Gregg, what are your thoughts on Atlanta? How do you view them, and what do you think that they need to do?
Well, I mean, I think with the pick of Arthur Smith, I think they looked at it as a safer pick to me. I don't think, because like you say, he does have a good offensive scheme and everything. My worry is that will he come off of that? Because now he's the head coach. So sometimes you see guys tend to do things that they couldn't do under the head coach. Now they can take those risks, you know what I mean, or do those certain things that they couldn't do then because the head coach, had the reins on them. Now they don't have the reins. So it'd be interesting to see if he still that same guy that he was in Tennessee, or does he morph into something else, or to what he really wants to do, and which it might turn out to be great. It may turn out to be great, but it also may turn out to be detrimental to him.
What is that? Do you see a good connection between the head coach and the general manager? I'm going to say that I'm not going to segue off of this, but just for a second, as Buccaneers fans, we've seen atrocious general managers that have come in and made some idiot plays, and they just didn't have that connection with the head coach.
True.
Then we had general managers and a head coach that didn't know what they were doing, and there was just been that disconnect. Off and on. And then finally you get Bruce Arians. You've got Jason Light. in some of the other front office pieces in place, you've got really good scouting and really good talent evaluation right now. So we've seen where if there's a disconnect between the general manager and the head coach, there's no direction. That can be a problem. And so now when I look at teams, I look at Atlanta still has talent on that team. Yes. The question is, how does the general manager and the head coach work together, or do they work together?
Well, I think with Fontenot, because Fontenot comes from New Orleans, so he, you think about it, he's been under that scheme working with Jeff Ireland, working with Mickey Loomis.
Yeah.
So he kind of knows how to. And think about it, for the last 4 years, New Orleans has won the South. Yeah. And they've always had a pretty consistent. So he's seen all those years from when he's been there, like 15, he was like 12, 15 years or so. He's seen what it takes. He's seen the ups and downs. He knows what mistakes not to make, because that team, basically what that team did is they made mistakes, but they learned how to correct them. Now, and you can see, and they had that consistency now. At least, if anything, they're in the playoffs every year in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I think that that gives Fontenot, to me, a jump start on what to do. And I guess how to work with Smith and everything, and how to build through the draft. And I think that's where we'll build more too. And I think it's smarter to build through the draft. Personally, I think
absolutely.
I think it's smarter to build through the draft. One, it's going to be cheaper for you in the long run. You're going to get a lot more mileage out of those players. You know what I mean? If you get that talent, you know what I'm saying? Because if you can get those guys, especially on those rookie contracts, you could do so much more than you can buying the high price free agents. But to me, a thought I had was that with all these free agents that's coming out, they're going to have to compete for that dollars just with those rookies too coming in off the draft. You might see a lot of guys dropping their price tags, you know what I'm saying, for 1 year contracts and stuff like that, till that salary cap rises and they can actually
because that salary cap's going to jump in 2022. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yes, right. So I mean, because I read the headline article that the NFL had lost like $4 billion. This compared to 2019 to rich people, rich people problems. Crying poor. Crying poor. I lost $4 billion. So
when you lose 4 and then the next year you gain about 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. So it just what I'm saying is that I think I started looking at some of the free agents, Kenny Vaccaros, the Emmanuel Sanders, Kevin Zeitler, all these other guys. I can see those price tags dropping, because they know when those rookies come in and they get those draft picks, they're gonna have to compete for a lower dollar to even get on the roster.
Yeah. This is true.
You know what I mean? So I can see you getting some plum free agents, some that you wouldn't have got for $1.5 million or a couple $1 million or a lot less for on a 1 year contract. You would have been paying maybe double digits. Maybe you're paying a lot less. Half the price.
Do you guys know when the TV contracts kick in? Anybody?
I think it's next. Is it next year?
No, they're like moving it up. So they understood everything with COVID. I think it's supposed to be 2 or 3 years, but I think they're going to move it up next year, because there's going to be more players in the market. Yeah, and the TV networks don't care. They just want to.
And the owners know this. They have the insight on this. Why you think Dak got a $40 million contract?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
And the Chiefs, remember, the Chiefs had $500,000 going into free agency last year, and they turned that $500,000 into a $500 million contract for Mahomes. Right. They turned that into Kelsey. They turned that into Chris Jones. They turned that into Frank Clark. None of those guys left. So the owners knew that nothing was going to happen.
And let me ask you this, and I'm just real curious. I want to get each one of your thoughts on this. Is this something because they knew they locked these players in so they wouldn't have to pay them more in 2022 when that cap rises?
Possibly, because you think about it. I think a lot of it they knew, they're coming into this with the COVID. They knew that all they had to do is follow the rules of the CBA. And the rules of the CBA, if that cap goes down, so does if the revenue goes down, the cap goes down. Automatic is that. So they just raised it just enough where I think they raised it just enough where they figured, we can still run the team sufficiently, but then we don't have to pay big contracts, and they can use that to really bring a lot of guys their pricing down. Yeah. And then like I said, next year, that don't mean the contracts next year are going to go up as much, but I got a feeling that they kind of laid this out where they knew that in the long run, I think it saves them money in the long run.
Yeah.
But I think QBs especially figured this out, and then this is why you're seeing a lot of QB controversy. Because Aaron Rodgers is married or is engaged to like a person who's very, lower key, at least in terms of the Hollywood realm. But we're seeing Russell Wilson, like all these quarterbacks at this point, you can have 2 or 3 years left and ask for an extension, and they're gonna. And now with new TV revenue, they can
14-hour workday limit, 11-hour drive.
Is that my GPS?
That's my GPS. So guys, Cody, I want to get you involved, man. I mean, I don't mean to keep y'all quiet over there, bro. You can jump in when you get
I'll
ready
be
to.
quiet.
What are your thoughts on this?
So when it comes to the CBA, one of you made this point, and I think you're starting to see this thing happen where you're going to see a lot of players that are going to be much more active in free agency than they ever have before, meaning they're going to be ring chasing. And I think now Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the next few years, or at least so long as Tom Brady is in the last years of his career trying to win as many Super Bowls as possible, I think Tampa Bay is going to be a destination. And I think there's going to be a few teams in the NFL that are going to kind of pop up to be these destination places for free agents to come and sign 1 or 2 year deal and try and ring chase. And maybe the contracts overall aren't worth as much, but you get to double dip sooner.
Yes.
You get to dip back into that money market quicker than you would have otherwise. And I think that the owners are already planning for a post-COVID world, and they, the Panthers owner, David Tepper, he just spent a ton of money bringing an MLS team to Charlotte and retrofitting Bank of America Stadium so that way it's going to be able to hold soccer games and NFL games. So, I really do think that they're already starting to look to the future. These contract TV deals are going to be bigger than they ever have before. I mean, NFL is the undisputed king of television. Whenever it's on, nothing comes close to it. And apparently ABC is going to have they're going to be in the running for the Super Bowl again. So it'll be the first time in like 20 something years, or I forget when it left ABC officially, but the ABC, the Super Bowl will be back on ABC. So you can definitely see that the gears of change are turning, and the owners are already starting to adjust to this.
On a sidebar, man, I'm really sick of DirecTV. I wish that something else could come out. I wish something else could come out. So
illegal streaming, Gene. Illegal streaming.
Yeah.
I'll give you my site.
Let me rephrase that.
Legally
that we can do here.
Oh, you want to go legal? Really?
You've got my DM on. If you want to just kind of suggest something illegally, I'll tell you no, you can't do it. But you've got my DM. When the camera's off, we'll talk.
And hey, man, definitely don't send those to me too. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Don't send those to Cody either.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely don't
it's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah, and we run a clean show here. We don't want those.
Oh, for sure.
No, I don't.
I've never watched anything illegal before in my life.
And don't send it after the show.
No, never.
After the show is over, don't send it.
Yeah, no, we're no.
Speaking of illegal, real quick, I think this is what I was going to say about the Falcons in general, and we're kind of seeing it starting with Ben Roethlisberger, and it's now trickled over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers about these void years. And I think we're going to learn a lot, especially about the Falcons, what they're going to do if they feel like they have a home run draft. They might, in the second, third tier of free agency, they might create some money. If they didn't draft a quarterback at 4, they trade back and they get the best defensive player available or anything like that. The Falcons are in this weird crossroads where they could draft a Trey Lance. They can draft I don't think everyone's thinking Zach Wilson's going to be the second quarterback, but a Justin Fields. If they feel like that's their guy.
I think it'll be Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson will get drafted before Justin Fields.
No, that's what I mean. I think Wilson's going to at this point. That's basically what I was saying.
A little more accuracy, got a better arm.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is if they don't go QB and they feel like they hit on, let's say, 2 or 3 defensive players, they might be in a position where they're like, hey, Matt Ryan, we believe in him. Let's create some money. Let's get a couple, we're talking all these veterans that are going to be available. Well, if you can create more money to give them that extra mil here or extra mil there, you're going to entice more players to come to you. And Atlanta, they have the pieces. They have pieces to be a 10-6 team. They really do.
Fan base, but go ahead.
But I'm saying they have the pieces to be a 10-6 team.
Yeah.
But realistically, we're looking at like a 7-9, 8-8 team right now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But if they feel like they're there and they can get a wild card,
because everybody thought
room.
Because everybody thought Carolina was going to win like 2 games. I said Carolina is going to be better than. And I went on Cody's show and told him that. I was like, Carolina is going to be better than you guys are saying they are. And sure enough, they showed me some of the young players that they have. I just feel like, they just need a little bit more depth. And, they need players in certain positions. But, while we're on that subject, Cody, let's talk about Carolina.
Sure.
And this is one of the teams that I've really got my eye on because this is a team that could just flash at any moment. Cody, I want to start with the quarterback situation. What's going on? Is it Teddy? Is it Teddy moving on? Are they drafting a quarterback? What have you heard? Have you heard anything that leads you to believe that somebody that gets let go at free agency could end up a Carolina Panther?
Yeah, so this has probably been the most active off-season cycle the Panther fans can remember for a while. Just because we've been so heavily connected in all the Deshaun Watson speculation. And, there were a lot of rumors that Carolina was involved in the trade for Matthew Stafford, that they, in fact, thought it was a done deal that they were going to trade for Matthew Stafford until the Rams came along and swooped him out from under us. Now, they're not saying for sure that did or didn't happen, but Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer did a press conference yesterday, and now they're in the midst of playing this game where they've kind of overplayed their hand, at least in some senses, because the cat is out the bag. The Panthers are looking to upgrade the quarterback position. It's just the truth. It's been in too much of the rumor mill. So now they're having to do this thing where there's no guarantee that they're going to land Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson if they force their way out of their respective teams. And sitting at 8, there's a few scenarios in which the big 4 quarterbacks, being Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, and Lance, all go even before the 8th pick. So we might not even have a chance, unless we love Matt Jones, to draft the quarterback of our future at 8. So now, recently in press conferences, they've been playing a lip service about, oh, listen, Teddy Bridgewater is our quarterback right now, and he is a great person. He's a great leader. He's a great guy on and off the football field, and he's our quarterback. And basically, they're doing all those things as a insurance plan in case Teddy Bridgewater basically ends up having to be their option for another year. So it's weird times in Carolina.
So I have to ask you, do you draft a quarterback and play Teddy one more year? Is that a potential option? Because I've always believed that it's good for a quarterback, like we saw with Patrick Mahomes, where Patrick Mahomes sat back, held the clipboard, learned the offense, just pretty much all the mental reps he got, he was ready to go day one. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. Hey, you got to throw him in the fire and let him learn that way. But if you have the opportunity and you get the quarterback that you want, do you want him to start day one? Or would it be better to have somebody like Teddy Bridgewater, who is pretty conservative? I mean, he's conservative compared to what you had in the past, the past decade almost. better than
that's an understatement. Very conservative,
and better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm just gonna say that. Just with his consistency, and I understand that he's missed plays, and there are better quarterbacks out there. But just for what you have, I mean, dude, you look at Tampa. I mean, I could go through the list here. I mean, you could have ended up with Mike Lennon. You could have ended up with Chris Sims. I mean, you could. There's a lot of quarterbacks you could have ended up with, but I think with what you have right now with Teddy Bridgewater, could you have a rookie sitting behind him and learning and just ready to go day one in 2022?
It's funny because you called your transition quarterback a bridge quarterback, and that's quite literally in my man's last name. And listen, to speak a little bit about Bridgewater, so one, it's entirely possible, especially with how his contract is set up, that we're going to roll with Teddy Bridgewater for another year, even if we do draft a quarterback early. So that 100% is within the realm of possibility. I think the criticism of Bridgewater, I know, is just his hesitance throwing the football down the field. There are times when he will have a wide open DJ Moore, and you can see Teddy Bridgewater staring him down, and it's like sometimes he doesn't even trust his own arm enough to make that throw. I mean, if you look at the Panthers receivers, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, both were almost were 1,000-yard receivers, and Robbie Anderson. And they all had around 4 or 5 touchdowns. So it was nothing over the top, a lot of yards after the catch, and players making plays and Teddy kind of playing in rhythm. So it's not that he's a bad quarterback, but it's just he is what he is. He is limited throwing the football to all levels of the field. And that's just a reality. It's not a knock on the man. It's just the truth. But today on our Cat Chronicles YouTube channel, I did a film review on Trey Lance. And Trey Lance is another prospect that's kind of similar to Josh Allen in that there's a lot of inconsistencies on his film. It comes from a kind of rudimentary offense, and it's very run-oriented, and they run a lot of quarterback power. They do a lot of those kinds of things. So Trey Lance also has this incredible arm that he can, I mean, he has an absolute rifle. He can make plays on the run, rolling out to his left and throwing off platform. The man has all the potential in the world, but you might want to slow down his learning curve by letting Bridgewater start for a year over him to kind of better ingratiate him to the speed of an NFL defense. And I do think that would be a fantastic thing for the Panthers to do. A lot of Panther fans would hate it just because I don't know if any of you follow Panthers Twitter, but there is not a lot of Bridgewater love amongst Panther fans for many different reasons. But it's certainly true that he has the potential to be our starter in 2020, and that's why, or 21, and that's why they're saying that.
I have an interesting interesting hypothetical I want to throw out there. For Panthers Nation, or even your own personal feelings. How would you feel about these two scenarios? Pick one. You have option A, trade Christian McCaffrey or DJ Moore and 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, or Trey Lance at 8. What would you do, and what would the fan base, in your opinion?
So I cannot,
or what's the best thing going forward for the Panthers?
I cannot tell a lie in that I am also a Clemson fan. So my inner fanboy doesn't let me pass up on the opportunity of having Deshaun Watson here in Carolina. So I would probably pack Christian's bags for him.
Yeah, I know you. You drive him to the airport.
Cody be flying the private jet out too.
Yeah, man, I might.
Private jet, champagne.
God, I should have known that pre-show before I even just threw out that, because I thought it's more intriguing Because, 3 first-round picks, I'm not worried about the first-round picks. I'm more worried about if you trade too many things, is Deshaun Watson in general, whoever gets Deshaun Watson, are they going to be basically the new Houston Texans? And that's kind of what worries me in general.
But you have a more competent. I think you have a more competent general manager in Carolina than you did in Houston.
And let me just say this too. If the Kansas City Chiefs draft Deshaun Watson, and maybe you all disagree with me on this, but I think Deshaun Watson looks every bit as good and has every much success as what Patrick Mahomes has done for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't disagree with you there.
And that's not denying the talent of Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
That's also an incredible football
Andy
team.
Reid, it's sitting, it's the talent around them, it's
the environment
and the rookie contract.
And the fact that Deshaun Watson still arguably hasn't even hit his prime years yet.
Not even yet.
And he already threw for 4,000 yards. Like that, having that kind of talent on the Panthers, I have no problem Carolina doing what it takes to secure Deshaun Watson. That being said, I also understand the value of having a quarterback that doesn't cost much, and knowing that you'll be able to build the football team around them and be more aggressive in free agency and pay some more players to help out and be a part of the supporting cast. So I understand for sure. I just have a hard time knowing how important the quarterback position is, especially in today's NFL. I have a hard time passing on a prime Deshaun.
I have to ask this. I'm going to jump in here real quick, and then I'll let you get to the Greg. Just having watched Matt Rule's press conference yesterday, I took away from this that the Carolina Panthers are not going to really be heavy in free agency. I think Matt Rule's strength, or they feel that their strength is going to be in the draft. They feel that there are players available in the draft that they could bring in to help this team be just even more competitive, upgrades in certain positions per se. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with the direction that this team is going, or could you see that there are players out there that can be had for a cheaper price that you can bring in to kind of mentor this young team?
Yeah, Matt Rule explicitly said that we don't intend to, Scott Fitterer, rather, our new GM, that we don't intend to be overly aggressive in free agency. But he did note wanting to bring in some more help, mainly amongst our offensive line and amongst our defensive backfield, because he specifically said that we are more than a few players away. So what that tells me is they know that this is the continuation of a rebuild process that started the moment you hired Matt Rule. Right. And to be frank, now Scott Fitterer, our brand new general manager, is having to come in and undo some of the mess that our previous general manager left him. So
your favorite guy.
Yeah, my favorite man in the world. I love that you know that, because I cannot stand Marty Hurney, man. So for example, though, it was in the news 2 days ago that we restructured Christian McCaffrey and Shaq Thompson. And I'm a firm believer that, certain positions are just more important than others, and therefore you should pay those positions. And, we overpaid, in my opinion, for running back. I'm a huge fan of Christian McCaffrey, but I just think that the position is too replaceable to be paying that much money. And listen, I take a lot of heat for that. Keep this in
mind here. The best ability is availability.
Sure. Right.
And he wasn't available.
And he was hurt a lot last season. And
when you look at everything, when you look at his body of work, you look at what he's making, and you look at what should be happening here, because I believe if Christian McCaffrey is in certain games, if Christian McCaffrey was 100% playing against Kansas City, Carolina beats Kansas City 100%. I have no doubt in my mind. Watching, and that's what I'm saying. Kansas City was on their heels that whole game, and Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, 100% playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, Carolina beats Kansas City hands down. I'll go against anybody statistically or game film, whatever. he was that missing piece. He was that missing part of this. And when you have somebody that's that talented, yeah, he's talented, but how much can you depend on him? If in your mind, as a Carolina Panthers fan, you follow them, how comfortable are you that he's going to play the whole 2021 season?
Well, I remember Gregg. So, for example, Gregg Olsen retired today, and at the beginning, shout out, and it's his 36th birthday as well. So, an interesting tidbit is that when in his early career, he was never injured. I mean, he was always available. But then the past 3 seasons in a row, he's had a bunch of foot injuries. So it's like you're not known for being injured until you are. And Christian McCaffrey traditionally hasn't been a player, even though he's smaller than some other running backs, he's never been injured a lot or unavailable. He's been a ready-to-go kind of player. But, yeah, last season, I mean, his absence definitely hurt our red zone. We were one of the worst red zone offenses in the NFL last year, and you could definitely tell. It also helped that the defenses could clamp down because they knew that our quarterback wasn't going to push the football in a lot of ways in the red zone. So those two things combined, the Panthers were we were a one-dimensional football team. That being said, Shaq Thompson was another player that we had paid, and he is a 4-3 outside linebacker. And we were paying him a ton of money. And it's like, if you're not putting your hand in the dirt to pass rush, like a Shaq Barrett, I'm not going to pay my outside linebacker a ton of money. So Scott Figger has been having to work on all these things and undo some of the baggage. And Panther fans have actually been fairly impressed with Matt Rule and our new brass in the front office.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with what's been going on right now?
Right now, all things considered, I mean, it's hard to be happier than I am right now. I mean, I know that, the Panther fans have been heard and that the front office and David Tepper know that we are in need of a quarterback. The fans are not happy with him. But also, David Tepper just spent $2.5 billion on a football team, and he's already worth $14 billion. So the man didn't buy the team just to, have as a part of his portfolio. He wants to win championships. So I think now he knows that if you don't have a franchise quarterback to give you a chance every year, then you're kind of dead on arrival. And the Panthers know that, and it seems like we're going to be very aggressive trying to fix that either via free agency or the draft. A lot of people have us pegged as a team to trade up, even if we have to, even in the top 3.
All right. Gregg, I know you had a question earlier. I want to get to your question. I want to make sure that gets answered.
Okay. Well, a couple of things. I was saying on the quarterback situation when you was talking about with Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Initially, when they signed him into that contract, the first thing I thought and came to my mind, because it was a 3-year contract, they already knew that they were going to be drafting a quarterback or getting another quarterback behind him already. It was a short-term contract. So what it made they play him this year. They probably figured McCaffrey was going to be healthy. So they didn't have to depend on him that same way. You know what I mean? Because they can always depend on the run game. Right. And you figure if McCaffrey was there, he was good at least for another 3 games, another 3 wins maybe. You know what I mean? Just from the running game alone.
Right.
But, of course, he wasn't there. Now you have to depend on Teddy. That's a little different ball game on that because he's going to be a guy, if all the pieces are working together, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
If it has to depend on him, he's not going to play. He's not going to be the Superman that gets you over the hump. You know what I mean?
Which is why he was better in New Orleans.
Right. Too. He was better in New Orleans because he had the depth. He had everything.
Better offensive line.
Right. Better offensive line. Yeah, he had the running back. He had everything. So even if they had a couple of injuries, he still could perform because they had enough depth on that team.
Which he did.
Right. And he didn't have that depth in Carolina. Mm-hmm. So with Rule, I think, to me, being here a college coach and coming from, I can see why they wouldn't do work in free agency. I would think that the common sense would be that he would go from college, picking up the younger players. Why? Because those he know he can work with. He knows how to work with them. He understands the mindset. He knows how to get through to them.
He has a reputation too.
And
all these young guys love him, like in general.
Right. So he knows how to connect with them. Because it's hard to connect with a 10-year veteran compared to connecting with a kid coming off the street, and he's going to try to prove himself, and he knows how to with those buttons to push to make that kid, make that kid go.
Definitely.
So I think that, what I'm saying. So I think for him to stay in his wheelhouse, I would draft. I would draft the heck out of everything.
Absolutely, and I mean we've seen that throughout the NFL. I mean you look at Green Bay and how Green Bay does. You look at Pittsburgh and how they do. I mean they are more than anything. They work in the draft. They may get
Pittsburgh is straight
they may
homegrown.
get a few pieces out of free agency.
Yeah. You want more money? You go elsewhere. Bye. I draft somebody and they'll take your spot to be better.
There you go. And I go back to last year when I said that Carolina is going to be better than a lot of people thought they were. I thought Christian McCaffrey was going to be healthy and available throughout the season.
I think a lot of people did. Most people didn't expect that.
I know we did.
And I realistically expected Carolina to win at least 8 games. Some people were saying 2 or 1. I'm like, what are you looking at here? And, again, I'm glad that they were able to vindicate me, especially that Kansas City game, which everybody thought they were going to get blown out. And they came in and played a rock solid game. They had a rock solid game plan. And I don't want to hear about injuries because I believe there were injuries on both sides of the ball. Carolina may have had more. And I think Carolina still held their feet to the fire and should have won that game. So, again, this is a team to really look out for. KB, I'm sorry, I'm not painting you in a corner here, bro. I want to get your thoughts on this here. This is just great to be talking football. We're in the off season and we get to talk football like there's a game next week. And I love this. And I'm glad you guys were able to come on with me. KB, I want to keep you included in this. So I want to get your thoughts on Carolina.
Oh, no, I gave my thoughts. I mean, to me, it comes down to what you do in the quarterback and then just have like a 2 or 3 year plan. To me, you approach this kind of in that Brian Flores mindset. You get your guys that guys that know your system, know the locker room, know what Matt Rule's all about.
Matt really will buy into it.
Exactly. And you know what? Miami had a top 5 pick last year. Fantastic. They got Tua, but but then they build on that. They get to almost a playoff team. They still had a 2 quarterback thing. I think you should see that in Carolina this year. Maybe you have a young guy going against Teddy, maybe halfway through the year, see kind of what's going on there, whether that be Trey Lance, anything like that. Like, I mean, you just figure out kind of like what the flow is. You don't go all in yet. Miami still hasn't even pushed all their chips in yet.
Yeah. I know you've been talking heavy about Trey Lance. Kellen Mond is another kid you need to look into.
That's my Bucks guy. Kellen Mond has the traits. He's got the Bruce Arians, big body, big arm.
I was never like totally sold on him, but I mean, the one thing I can say when I started thinking about it and looking at him, I can say one thing: he doesn't turn the ball over. Really good. He can move.
He's a rock solid decision maker.
Yes.
Yeah. He's got it from the neck up.
Yeah, he does. The talent's there. The talent really is there. I worried about the accuracy. That was my worry, is his accuracy. Can he, because I didn't really see him throw guys open. But I mean, in college, you know how that goes. The window's this big. In the pros, the window's that big. And so it's really big, so it's a big difference. So can he really, throw guys open and is that arm? The power is there for the arm. I don't know if the talent's there. That's the only word. But other than that, I would take him before I take Trey Lance personally.
See, normally I'd have
No, we definitely have a lot of options in the offseason through the draft and through free agency. I'm almost certain that Teddy Bridgewater will be on our team next year. And we knew when we signed Matt Rule that we were signing up to a process. I mean, we signed him to a 7-year contract. And that was rare for a college coach who hadn't really had a whole lot of previous coaching experience in the NFL. Like, we committed to a long haul with Matt Rule in which he's going to try and build his culture. And if you look, if you look at what he did at Temple and at Baylor, it always started bad. And then the next year he would double his wins. And then the very next year they were in title contention. So So, there is
But
this.
again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying with Matt Rule.
Right.
And everybody bought into what he's trying to do in Carolina. And that goes a long way, especially in the pros. You're talking about a bunch of young millionaires. And they've developed their own mind, hey, this is what I want to do. But when you've got a head coach that can come in and say, hey, let's come together. We're building something special here. Let's move. And they kind of showed that they can potentially do that. So again, I think that's great. So go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, we talk about all the time. It starts, in the coaching staff and everything that goes on there, but really it starts at the ownership. And David Tepper, you can hate, whatever their situation is now, but he gave Ron Rivera a chance. He let the previous regime play itself out. He didn't just come in and blow everything up, on the first, chance he could. He let it play out. And then he kind of saw, okay, at this point, Cam Newton's probably not it. Ron Rivera, you're great. We love you. But we just got to go in like a new direction. And we went completely ground zero. Yep. But we kept guys like Christian McCaffrey that keep us relevant. We keep, we get a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, not going to blow your socks off, but he's going to keep you in games enough to make it interesting, and it's all of these like little moves. I see David Tepper, just he has a vision. And normally we talk about head coaches having this vision, but rarely do we ever hear about an owner having a vision. And he's been out in front. He's talked about this. Like me and Gene can talk about the Glazers. You don't hear from them very often unless they're holding a Lombardi.
Some people would say that's better, though.
Yeah, no, but the Glazers specifically, they like me and you, but we can get into that a different day. But but Tepper is he's like a Mark Cuban, but more dialed down. Like a really surface level guy who you can just really understand that he's got something cooking and he's working with Rule. Like Rule has it like what he's like in control, but Tepper has a vision and Rule's just like one part of that vision.
And the fact that he comes from Pittsburgh, he comes from a team that has a long history of winning Super Bowls and being in contention. And I think also it's important to note that the man comes from Wall Street. So whatever you think about his demeanor, you have to be cutthroat.
Killer instinct. Yeah.
When you're dealing with billions of dollars like that, billionaires
he doesn't want to waste it at all.
He doesn't want to waste it, and billionaires don't like to be told no. And that's also why so many people have Carolina pegged as a real landing spot for Deshaun Watson, because David Tepper, like I mentioned earlier, he spent $2.5 billion. He wants to change Charlotte into a southeastern version of what the Chiefs have, a young dynamic team that has a bunch of explosive talent that will make Charlotte a destination for free agents. So if that's what he wants, and he thinks a franchise quarterback like Deshaun would do it, then he's gonna try and figure some kind of way to make it happen.
Well, if you get that quarterback there, I mean, if you can get the right quarterback there, you'll definitely get a team. You'll get players there, because if they think that guy can get them to the Super Bowl, they got the potential.
Absolutely.
They're gonna be there,
especially if they're young.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Veterans want as little drama as possible, so
yes, definitely
a landing spot for veterans if you're talking in that direction right there.
Yeah, but they know they want to believe in their quarterback. That's the one thing. If they're looking for that ring, they want to know that they feel like that guy got that potential to give them that ring. They'll come there even for cheaper price in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Man. Yeah, if there's a franchise quarterback there that's in his prime and they're a few pieces away, man, why not ring chase?
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy when you think about the Packers. When you've had Aaron Rodgers for this long, and the only first-round pick he's ever thrown to is Mercedes Lewis. Like, let that sink in. And they hit on Devontae Adams, God help him, in the second round. But why haven't more receivers in the past 15 years gone there? Isn't that just crazy to think about?
It's too much snow there to get through anything. You can't get through anything.
But still, other than Mahomes, what other quarterback do you want in the snow?
Where are your best receivers from?
Oh, L.A., or Cali, Texas, and Florida.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because
those are the big three for football in general.
Yeah, well, Georgia puts out a lot. Georgia is a hub for
Georgia too now. I forgot.
SEC. Yeah, pretty much the SEC. Period.
They're pretty warm weather places. If I'm in a warm weather place and I have an option to go, I'm not going to Green Bay.
Yeah,
But I
Bama,
will say
Georgia,
this.
Florida, all those guys. You know, you got good
I
receivers.
also kind of think that there's this rumor that Aaron Rodgers is unhappy with the way their front office has handled their free agency, and that they just historically don't like to be active in free agency. They
don't
try and draft players. I mean, look at what Stephon Diggs did in Buffalo for Josh Allen. Like, man,
Talk about a welcome.
Dude, don't tell that dude a receiver can't play in the cold, man. Because
he can.
Stephon Diggs is a real.
Well, they have a dome.
Yeah,
that's cheating.
I'm not taking anything away from anybody. I'm just saying that because it's cold. I don't want to get up at 20 below zero and go to the to go to camp and work out.
Yeah, who does?
I had my time shoveling snow and all that. Let me tell you right now, no dude want to be doing that. No. Yeah, trying to take snow off the Escalade and come on,
there
man.
you go. well, guys, I do want to jump over to New Orleans.
Okay.
The NFC South champions, and I do want to, kind of basically the same questions. A lot of moves have been made in free agency, and I don't know if you can bring everybody up to speed with what's been done now and what is the direction. I think, what are they still 30 million over the cap?
About 25 when I looked at over the cap today.
Okay.
Is that including the franchise tag, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, that is include. Yeah, that's
okay. Then they're not as bad as what I thought they were.
Because I think they got Williams. Yeah, because they got him on a non-exclusive tag. If I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's like
which
10
is a little
million.
over 10. Yeah,
10, a little over 10 million. So they they cut Quan Alexander today and Janoris Jenkins, which Quan was pretty much a.
How did you feel about that? Because you bring this guy in, and he's got this contract.
Yeah.
When he was healthy, he was
really good. To me, I thought he was pretty good with Quan. Tell me, Quan Alexander.
Yeah.
He was good. I thought he was really good. But I think with their Achilles, the Achilles injury, I think they felt like I think they felt like they didn't want to sit there and restructure him, and then turn around and he doesn't work out. And he can't play, or he's maybe out for longer than a year. Because sometimes the Achilles is hard to come back off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he may literally not be back till end of next season when he got hurt, or before that a year sometimes in some cases. So I think they felt like it was best to cut bait on that, and maybe they figured if he got healthy, maybe they can revisit it later on. And in that case, and maybe at a little lower number or something like that. So I didn't want to see him go. I mean, they had a couple of guys I didn't want to see go, and then some of the guys I kind of expected to go anyway. I expected like Jared Cook to go.
Okay.
I felt like he had to step away.
Your kicker, who's been
punter, Morstead. Yeah, he's been there for so long, but they already had another kid stashed who really impressed them, and they basically stashed him on injured reserve for the year. So they pretty much have a punter, so they're good to go there.
I stashed him. I like that.
Oh yeah, Payton has done that in his own way. A hangnail injury, and the guy's on injury reserve. You come on back next year. And camp. We may boot this veteran and get you in there now. You had your shot, and he's done that with some guys. Where it happens. This way, teams do it. At least they know how
to. Absolutely. So with free agency, being that high being that much over the cap, there's just, you're kind of running out of players to restructure contracts with, aren't you?
Well, we still got. I think they're still. Well, let's say it like this: Lattimore and Ramczyk right now. I guess they're basically going to they took their 5th-year options. So what they're going to do is probably end up getting them long-term contracts. That should open up space there. With those two, same thing with Marcus Williams. They're going to, probably long-term him. That'll open up some more space. And then they still can restructure Michael Thomas and I think Taron Armstead. A couple of players they can do too.
So or Taysom Hill.
They could probably do that too. They probably could.
Is there wiggle room for him?
Huh?
Well, you can't let him have a 17 mil cap hit as a.
I agree.
As a tight end. Might as well.
But the question is, is he going to be tight end? Is he going to be quarterback?
That's what I was going to ask you. Is Jameis going to be the quarterback? I keep hearing from Saints Twitter.
They can't make him. I don't think they can acknowledge him as a tight end though.
No,
I don't
he can't.
think they can.
No, he's a quarterback. I mean, he's listed as a quarterback. He listed as a quarterback. He's just a utility quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
He's
I actually have a question for you.
Offensive weapon. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
I actually have a question for you. How much of that did you think is just Sean Payton's ego saying, okay, I have this guy who is no doubt an incredible athlete. I mean, say what you want about Taysom Hill. The dude runs a 4.4 and can lower his shoulder and just bowl you over. He does have a powerful arm. How much is it that is it Sean Payton? Was he going on an ego trip saying, hey, I can make this guy, the next great thing in New Orleans? Or, define that situation a little bit.
I mean, I think it's always going to play a little bit on ego, or I think it's going to play a little bit on ego.
Sean Payton ego? What?
Okay. But you got to remember, you got 32 egos running around in the NFL. True. Because how many times the coaches have took players who couldn't play worth anything and signed the guy and think they can make him play, and then he turns around and he's still junk. It just happens. In this case with Taysom Hill, I think he did make it work for the most part. Now, it wasn't pretty, and the offense was completely different in that sense with him. Now, do I look at him as a long-term option? Not really for me.
What, 30, 31?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm saying, am I comfortable with Taysom Hill playing 16 games as a starting quarterback in New Orleans? I don't see that one personally. But I think, let's say it like this: if I had to have him fill in for 2, 3, 4 games, I'm cool with that, and I'm totally comfortable with that, just like it was last year. But because everybody else was like up in arms that he was going to start because they thought Winston would start, and to me, I didn't have an issue at all with him starting because I felt like Payton knew that he had to let him step up this year and try it out and see where he is, and he got to see what he can do.
And Gregg, real quick, I want to jump in here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Because I follow the NFC South as a whole, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Carolina, New Orleans, Tampa. When I watch Taysom Hill is an offensive weapon.
Yes.
Taysom Hill is a guy that's put in to bring a wrinkle to that offense to defensive coordinators' nightmare.
Without a doubt.
And when he's in, it's like when the Wildcat was first formated. Yeah, you saw the Wildcat out there. You saw the formation. You looked at it, but you defend against it. You just let it run its course, and you ran your defense the way you did. That's the way I see Taysom Hill. You see Taysom Hill lined up as a wide receiver, or you see Taysom Hill lined up in the slot, or you see Taysom Hill lined up under center. You just pretty much run your defense the way you do. Taysom Hill is an offensive weapon, and he's that wild card. Where, as Cody mentioned, he can put his shoulder down and run people over.
Yes,
or you can put him out there in the slot. He's catching the ball, and he's going to burn you for 15, 20 yards.
Run away from you.
Yeah.
Right. So when you take Taysom Hill out of that wild card position and put him under center, doesn't that hurt your offense in a way?
No, in my mind, it does, because I'm the same way, because I feel like I like him better. I like him better coming in every once in a while and spot duty at quarterback or playing other positions. I think they're more detrimental that way because you got to pay attention to him.
Right.
You got to know where he's at.
But if he's in there for 4 quarters, you can scheme for that.
Yes.
You can look at game film and say, okay, I know what this guy's tendencies are.
Yes.
He's going to be in here for 4 quarters. We can scheme for this. But if he's coming in and out of the
lineup
plays, in and out of the lineup, I mean, you can't scheme for that.
Right. Now with Winston, the question comes to, are we going to even sign him?
Yeah.
Because at this point, he's still a free agent. Somebody else might make an offer to him that we wouldn't make, you know what I mean, and give him the opportunity. Now, my thought was, even pretty much at the beginning of the season when they started, I already knew the Saints needed to draft a quarterback. So I think they do need to kind of go that quarterback route in the draft if they can. I think if they do find a guy, and if they got to, pack up a couple of draft picks and move up a little bit to go for it, I'm not going to be angry with that. But I can also see them standing pat and just, working it, and then just kind of see if they can sign Winston. At least if anything, they got they got somebody who will probably be the starter. And then they can deal with getting a new quarterback later next year, and then just kind of work with him from there. But if they decide that they find the guy that they want, and Peyton probably has his eye on something.
He does.
Yes.
He does.
He was so close to getting Mahomes. He was so close. Oh my God! And Andy Reid snatched him from us on that one.
Love you forever, Andy.
I remember I remember watching a podcast. It was a Saints podcast, and they were talking about getting Jackson from Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Peyton loved Lamar Jackson, loved everything about him, but they didn't pull the trigger on it. I think he either got drafted or they didn't pull the trigger on him.
No, they traded up.
No, they traded up.
Najee, they are not.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I heard that they were that they really were thinking about trading up for Patrick Mahomes at one point too.
Well, they were right there. They were like a pick away.
Yeah, exactly.
They were a pick away, and what it was Lattimore was there, and they had Mahomes there, so they had to make the decision. And Andy Reid traded up and got Mahomes, snatched him right there, like a pick ahead. And that was it.
Thank God.
And so it was Lattimore. So it was Lattimore. And I was sitting there, and every time I see Mahomes, I'm like thinking about what could have been. I can't even lie.
Oh my God, man! We dodged a freaking bullet there.
I know.
Dodged a bullet there.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, because
that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, because I got a feeling Lattimore probably would have not got drafted if Mahomes was there. I really do, and I think Breeze would have been gone a couple years earlier. Then
been nice.
But then you go from the old line to Mahomes. Even with that might be worse for you.
Saints,
I don't know, but it didn't happen.
If the Saints ever had a true over the top downfield element, they might be one of the most dangerous teams.
And that's my biggest thing. That's my biggest thing I'm worried about. I mean, I think like Winston can get the ball there. My worries with Winston is one, the maturity.
Yeah.
One thing. Number two is the fact that he stares his receivers down.
Isn't that just refreshing to hear, Gene? Just someone else like saying this about us getting killed like a year ago.
He's been doing this. He's been doing this since college. I've seen that since college.
But we've been getting killed, bro. Killed for saying if I even just mention the name Jameis Winston on my Twitter account, I literally have to walk away for 6 hours. No joke.
But and I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I would still be concerned.
I'm dead honest because I mean, everybody has their, some things they're good about him. But the arm talent's there. I believe the arm talent's there. It's still. I worry about, like you said, worry about the checkup from the neck up part.
There you go.
Is he one, mature? Number two, is he stop staring down his receivers? Is he able to now go through his progressions? If he can do that stuff and get through that, I think they can be pretty dangerous with him. Plus, they'll have that downfield element. Yeah. And then if they can get like one or two good speed receivers in the draft or something.
Deontay Harris, man, I just want to give him some love.
Oh, tell me about it. I know, I love him. Yeah.
You don't as a Bucs fan, we've maybe had one good returner in my entire lifetime.
Yes.
Carl the Truth Williams, literally. Yeah. And then I see this little guy from literally nowhere.
Yes.
And every time he's on the field, he's literally like Taysom Hill to me. He's just a weapon. All you have to do is put the ball in his hands and something just good is going to happen.
Another one I like a lot is Marquez.
On the edge of my seat. I'm like, where is he? I'm looking across the screen. There he is over there. Okay.
And the Saints give him the ball and it's 15 yards just instantly. And I'm just put him in the backfield, do whatever you can with this guy. And he could be a downfield element. Honestly, just have him run nines.
I think Marquez Callaway is another kid. That could be another one. And they got him undrafted. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, when they put him out there, I was glad they did finally put him out there because I wanted to take a look at him during the year. And to me, I felt like I saw a lot of potential there. Yeah. As probably a really good number two. And I think if they, like you said, if they can't get the downfield element, that'll spread the field. That helps Thomas work. That helps him with Kamara down, work. I think it just really puts it scares the heck out of defenses if they can get that downfield element, because not everybody got the cornerbacks or the safeties that can hang.
Do you think Drew Brees comes back one more year?
I don't think so. I got a feeling that even if he wanted to come back, I think they'd cut him loose. I think they would. I kind of really believe they would. I think they want him to go. Personally, I think they felt like that. That at this point they've done enough with him. But I got a feeling if he comes back and Payton okay with it, I'll work with. We ride with it and go from there. But I think even Payton knows that. Yeah, this is pretty much should be it. And I think Brees knows it too, but I just don't know why he is.
It's the social media, what he's doing, like it's just like weird.
And that's where you go local and you want to get that information.
That's why I'm asking him. I'm not waiting for for Twitter user telling me.
Why do you think it's taken Drew Brees this long to?
Honestly, I wish I knew.
Yeah, because you're looking at today. Gregg Olsen and Thomas Davis just retired, and we made a whole big thing of it. It just seems like if the front office knew that Drew Brees was going to retire last year, Drew Brees knew that he was going to retire. I remember that's why Russell Wilson let him start the Pro Bowl. Mm-hmm. It was like the day Kobe died. I remember that. Russell Wilson let Drew start in front of him, and that made everyone think, oh, okay, that means he's going to be retiring soon. Like, I wonder why it's taken so long for them to do this, and why is he so hesitant to make a decision?
Well, one thing I did read, somebody said, one of the local media writers in New Orleans were talking about, I think it was March 19th is when he signed his first contract with New Orleans. Uh-huh. So they were trying to see maybe he's looking to do something like that, where he, where it kind of come full circle in the way, 19, 20 years later, and that type of deal. Right. I don't know for sure. I was debating on that part too, why the heck was taking so long? Because we kind of know it's over and know it's done, and I know even Payton waiting for an answer, because Payton was the one that was kind of pushing it. Like,
I wonder if there are not moves being made behind the scenes, and we just as listeners, football fans are just not privy to it.
Oh, there's always moves behind the scene, because I'm already looking to see what Payton got a plan somewhere. He got to be. He's got some kind of plan. Either he's drafting a quarterback, or he's got some, or maybe he got some trade deals in mind, and that he's trying to work on. But I think he's trying to get the whole Brees thing kind of cleared. Yeah, and get that out the way, because it'd be kind of maybe kind of weird thinking that Brees is still there, and then they're trying to make this trade.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think they don't want to feel like they want to pushing them out. Yeah, but I think in a way they kind of are, in a way. Yeah. But like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see with the team, because you're gonna lose a lot of the players. But I think really, once again, it's pretty much like with Atlanta, same thing with the Carolina, same thing with even Tampa Bay. The draft is gonna be key. If they can draft well, and they can get some guys who can come in and they can plug and play in, or pretty close to developing very well, and whatever they pick, then actually they're going to be they'll be even that much more better, and they get back, get that depth be coming back.
Do that 2016 draft over again.
Oh man,
don't. But for your sake, let's say
yeah, something like that. Yes, but even the last few drafts, they've hit on some players here and there, and if they can hit on, I think they got like about 6 picks this year, 5 or 6 picks. I mean, if they can hit on like good 4 of them, to make 3 or 4 of them, I'm good with that. If they can hit a good 3 or 4 of them in the right positions, I can see something like that.
I have forever said that the Saints are the best testament to what one good draft can do for a football team. Man, that 2017 draft, man,
I just want to forget about that draft.
Y'all hit on so many key players that are still.
Let's do the short list. Who didn't they hit?
Man, Ramchick, Lattimore, Kamara, man, just a bunch of talent. And that's part of what gives me hope as a Panther fan. It's like with Joe Brady, who's still one of the brightest young minds.
I love Joe Brady.
Yeah, me too.
Mine is one of my favorites.
Me too. Like if we're able to put together a good draft like the Saints have been able to do, then hey man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, and the Saints are big in undrafted free agents. They'll find those 1 or 2 gems.
Right.
Last year, like I said, Marcus Callaway, I think is one of those guys that they got in, and they'll find others. So, I mean, the one thing about it, I feel like we have a good enough front office, and a good enough scouting department that they find those guys, and they give it a shot. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean,
yeah, most definitely.
So I'm comfortable with the draft.
Nice. Well, Cody, I want to get your thoughts now on the New Orleans Saints. I know we've been kind of going back and forth, just get your thoughts, and then we will hear from KB, and we'll move on to Tampa.
So my older brother is a diehard New Orleans Saints fan. So the Panthers,
smart older brother.
The Panthers Saints rivalry is always a fun one for me in our household. He's also an LSU fan, and I'm a Clemson fan. So that had to play out recently. Also,
SEC baby, SEC.
I know it, man. I know it. But listen, man, those Saints right now, until proven otherwise, like they are a testament to a few things. One, what a good draft can do for you. 2, how much a really talented offensive line can take you. I think so much of we talk about the difference between Teddy with the Panthers and the Saints is that offensive line is a beast. And I remember when they traded up back into the second round to draft Eric McCoy, the center out of Texas A&M, somebody who I was really high on. I'm like, man, they just prioritize that offensive line position so well that it's like, man, if you're a Mac Jones, right? Who, everybody kind of knocks him for his mobility, and he's not very, very mobile. But from behind a clean pocket, my man has a good arm, and he can go through his progressions, and he can make some plays. I think a player like him falling to New Orleans, depending on if he would even fall that far, I kind of don't think so either. But like a player like that, if you were to fall, that would be a dream come true for New Orleans, because they already have so much of that talent in place. You have Kamara coming back. Unless you trade Michael Thomas, which I heard that was a rumor. I don't know if there's any legs to that. Yeah, probably ESPN. But they already have so much talent. A lot of guys on the defense. Like I think until proven, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers proved it otherwise. But the Saints, until they fall off, there's no reason to assume that they're not going to figure out a way to, be a competitive football team, at least in this division next year.
Well, there you go. KB, I want to get your thoughts on the New Orleans Saints.
Man, when I think, and this hates for me to say, this hurts a lot. Just know that. When I think of the Saints, I think of just 2 things in general. Depth, and we see a lot of people in the chat right now talking about within the trenches, and I wholeheartedly agree, but just depth in general, but then also good coaching. Hate Sean Payton, hate him to death, but man, does that guy know how to coach. Like, he just knows. I mean, you take a quarterback like Drew Brees, who literally has no arm, and you win 12, 13 games. Like, that's just, and it's on like rinse, cycle, repeat. Like, when the Saints were not good, it was when they didn't have a running game and a defense.
Yes.
So when Peyton figured out, in the front office, Mickey Loomis and all of them figured out that, we just need to just have everything well-rounded, just be a good, solid team, and then let Scheme and Drew just bring us home. And that has worked for well over a decade. And it's something that I think a lot of teams that are rebuilding or think they're in a window just need to do. When you have a team like the Saints do, it is so hard to just not pick on, the big splashy move, like go get the receiver here or the splashy linebacker there. Yeah, and to take the Eric McCoy, who is not even going to start on your offensive line as a rookie, and like the 20th pick, or whatever that was in the 20s, like to do something like that is just mind-boggling to a lot of organizations. But that's why a lot of those organizations fail, because they fail to see that big picture of having just a well-rounded team and a solid quarterback to just, and I'm not even talking Drew Brees in his, mid to late 20s, which is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I'm talking a guy who can barely throw the ball 20 yards down the field.
Yeah.
Right.
And to still win 12 or 13 games in the NFL, in the modern NFL, where we see Jameis Winston throws for 5,000 yards, like 30 plus touchdowns, 30 plus interceptions, everyone freaks out. But then you see just Drew Brees, 38, 39 years old, throwing for, 43, 4,400 with, 25 touchdowns and like 6 interceptions. And that just doesn't blow your mind, but that's what wins games.
Yeah,
exactly. And you know what? People will give the Saints crap for what happened in the postseason. That was a shitty non-pass interference call. I'll joke on it forever, but it is what it is. And the teams lose to like the Vikings all the time. Like when you have Dalvin Cook and an offense that's predicated on play action, like that. Those are the teams like, when you play Patrick Mahomes, what do you want to do? Run the ball and run play action and just play defense. Well, you're going to lose those games every now and then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you ran in some bad, like the Minnesota Miracle. Marcus Williams is a fantastic player who will never make that monumental of a mistake ever again. We're talking about a team with 2 good receivers running play action with Dalvin Cook. Like, these are just games that just happen. Like, the Bucs had a fantastic run that was predicated on their defense. People don't want to talk about it. It was against the Saints. The defense allowed some points, but then they created turnovers. The Packers, they held Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive drives.
Yes, he did.
And allowed 0 points as a defense. That's what wins you games. And when you think of the Saints, I think of David Onyemata. I think of
love him.
Cam Jordan, these guys that you can just, unless they're going against Tristan Wirfs, sorry, I had to throw a dig in there. These are just guys you can count on to just do dirty work. And Demario Davis, God bless his soul, he was wasted as a New York Jet, and he found a home, and he is doing fantastic. And that's what the Saints do. They take good coaching, they take good players, and they just throw it together and do what works.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, I'm almost more concerned with the coaching staff in a way. I just want to see that coaching staff still, because they lost a lot of people off the coaching staff this year.
That's what happens when you win, though.
Yes. Yeah. It got them this year. Dan Campbell.
Unless
Aaron
you're
Glenn.
Todd Bowles or Eric Bieniemy, which I'll never understand. But
so, do we have some time to ask some Tampa Bay questions?
Yep, that's exactly where we're headed right now.
All right.
So, KB, same line of questions, and we'll start with free agency, work to the draft, and your thoughts, and then I'll open it up to everybody else from the NFC South.
Yeah, contrary, don't read anything you read on ESPN or Bleacher Report for the Buccaneers for the next month and a half.
NFL Network. Ignore all that.
Bleacher Report took Adam Schefter and literally changed his quote and the meaning behind it and create an article off. And that's about this Odell Beckham thing. That's not going to happen. Never was going to happen, whatever. But the Bucs are going to be in many ways, it's kind of what it was last year, the most boring splash team ever. You're just going to re-sign guys. You're going to maneuver cap around. We heard about Tom Brady, and we saw Levante David do these void years. Levante David's making, $12.5 million a year over 2 years. So $25 million. That's going over 5 years. Like, I think you're going to see the same thing with Brady, and I think quarterback's just the easiest position to do it. Me and Gene are all in the big, bring Shaq Barrett back. It might cost you 18 to 20 million, but he's a good, solid guy who fits kind of what you do when he plays 16 games or plus games if you make the playoffs. And I think that's what the Bucs just need to continue doing, re-sign the guys like Sue. Hopefully they don't sign, and I've said this all offseason, give Leonard Fournette a statue, don't pay him the money.
No, hell no.
And I will forever love playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny, whatever you want to call him. And I'll even talk about this with a little insight about the draft. I still don't think you take a running back at 32. We talked about what our defense did. Well, we talk about and you know what? Taking the Najee Harris, the Travis Etienne, or the kid from UNC is blanking my name right now. But they're all high quality players. But to me, you look at the Chiefs. What did the Chiefs do last year? Did they take the Eric McCoys of the world? Did they take, the offensive or defensive lineman that could have really helped them during a playoff run? No, they took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And with the Bucs and Chiefs, you found Leonard Fournette and Le'Veon Bell on the free agent market.
Yes.
Like, running backs can be found. We already know about the James White connection. Focus on the James Whites and the Rex Burkheads of the world. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go take that, Asai. Go take that Rousseau. Go take that Barmore. Take those kinds of guys that when Ndamukong Suh, if he doesn't retire this year and retires next year, that can step in. If JPP were to move on or retire, you have someone who can come next year. Be like the Saints, draft the trenches, and if you find, a skill player or a linebacker that, is skilled and can wait and learn behind Levante and Devin, or, a safety who can learn from an Antoine Winfield, to me, who's the best rookie 5-year veteran I've ever seen. And with the draft especially, you saw what the Bucs did last year. They had 2 ginormous holes. They had Todd Bowles requires a free safety who can be rangy and just take over the field if needed, and then even blitz on occasion. And then you needed like a Tyrann Mathieu, and you needed an offensive tackle. With me and Gene, we thought that position was going to be left tackle, and you replaced Donovan Smith. No, you take the best player available. You give up a 4th-round pick if you need to, and you get a guy who can just be solid and do what you need, which is Tristan Wirfs, obviously.
Tristan Wirfs just shut it down. I mean,
you know what they did?
Joey Bosa and all the other guys about, just what Tristan Wirfs is as a rookie.
And then what did they do in the 3rd round? They reached on the running back. Keyshawn Vaughn, he flashed a little bit here and there, but he barely played because what did we do? We found Leonard Fournette, we found LaShawn McCoy, and we found, God love him, Tyler Johnson in the 5th round. Now, if you told me you've drafted Tyler Johnson in the 3rd round, I wouldn't have blinked an eye either. But that's when you have to take these picks and you have to capitalize them, and you just don't look at holes like running back and receiver, because the Bucs are, when we have Chris Godwin on the franchise tag, hopefully, a long-term deal, because next year we're talking about all the salary cap increase. Chris Godwin going to make a lot of money. Yeah. And he's perfect for this team. And you have Antonio Brown, who I will never understand why him and Tom Brady are best friends, but you know what? It works. And if he stays here for $2 million plus $2 million in incentives, God help him. And if it works out salary cap wise, great, but I don't want him. But if he's here, he's here, and you don't need to draft a receiver because you have Tom. We barely used Scotty Miller last year, who was probably the best target Tom Brady had all year. Whenever we needed a big play, it went to Scotty Miller. And that's with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Gronk on the roster. So the Bucs just need
number 1 receivers. I mean, realistically,
they just need to get better in the trenches and then just build solid depth, kind of like our brothers in New Orleans do. Just grab good players and fill out those trenches.
I was talking about this before the show started, and I want to share this with the listeners as well. In the NFC South, I think it's just a little over 10 years. All 4 teams have made it to the Super Bowl. And when you think about that time as well, you look at the AFC South, all 4 of those teams have had the number 1 pick and overall pick in the draft. And to me, when I look at the teams that the NFC South has sent to the Super Bowl, the big thing that stands out to me is the trenches. On the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, they've been dominant in what they've done. I remember the year that Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl. That defensive line was nothing short of outstanding. I mean, just the way they played.
The whole front seven. Front seven was bad.
Exactly. New Orleans, when New Orleans went to the Super Bowl, I mean, both sides, it was just the trenches were dominant. And I would say over the past 10 years, only one team that I can think of, the Kansas City Chiefs last year, was a team that kind of bucked the system where I say games are won and lost in the trenches. The Kansas City Chiefs weren't as strong as I thought they should have been as far as defensively in the trenches, but they still won. They won that Super Bowl. But ultimately, that's just been the MO for the NFL is that's what you have to do. And I feel like, Tampa has done a lot of that. And you look at Vita Vea, then coming in and getting Ndamukong Suh. Yes. Then you use a 3rd-round pick to bring in JPP. Then you bring in Shaq Barrett for next to nothing.
$4 million for 19 and a half sacks.
$4 million exactly. And the thing is, he's sitting behind Ware and goodness, I'm drawing a blank. Von Miller. He's sitting behind those two guys, and he comes out, he shows what he can do, and he's nothing short of amazing. And it's just, that's what Tampa has been missing all these years. We've talked about this, Gregg, going all the way back to 2013, 2014, where Tampa just hasn't had that consistency, and now you're seeing it. So that's the recipe for success, is addressing the trenches.
Oh, without a doubt, you have to, because especially when it comes down to when you at the end of the games, you want to close those games out. You close those games behind that offensive line and that running game. You know what I mean? You need to run that clock out or whatever you need to do, especially in defense, goal line defense and things like that. Those saves, those 4th and 1s, when you got those guys that can come in there and stop that, shut that down. So those things they're important. The trenches are very important. The outside is exciting, with your cornerbacks and your wide receivers and everything. They create the excitement, but the real cookies are made in those trenches, and it's really simple that much.
Exactly. Cody, I was gonna go ahead and get your thoughts, man. I know you have Buccaneer questions.
Yeah, I remember, Gene, specifically for you, when you came on our show, we asked you what you foresaw in the future and regarding some of the free agent players that Tampa had. And if I recall correctly, I want to say you didn't anticipate Godwin or David being a part of the plans. And yet it looks like, at least for a year or so, they are going to be a part of the plans. What do you think about them deciding to franchise tag Godwin and sign David to that contract?
Yeah, I'll most definitely. I have to give credit to the general manager and Mike Greenberg. In Greenberg. They did what they had to do to make this happen. I didn't know what they were going to do. I felt like with all the free agents that the Bucs have, I was like, wow, there's if they let them get to free agency, this could happen. I was looking more at the Bucs keeping Shaq Barrett and making sure they get him locked up because of how important he is at that defensive line. But, they went out and did what they had to do, and this is one of those times I'll admit I'm wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. This is when Lavonte David may retire a Buck, and that's kind of what you want right there. Just what he's meant to this team. Mm-hmm. He's, just continuously been incredible.
Yes.
And statistically, and you may not like to hear this, Cody, but statistically, you got to put him right up there with Luke Kuechly. I know that Luke Kuechly, the Panthers are winning games, the Bucs were not. But when you look statistically, you put them side by side. Got to check them stats, man. Lavonte David is right up there.
They don't talk about him enough.
My brain says statistic-wise, maybe. My heart says hell no, bro.
I see Lavonte David. To me, Lavonte David always jumps off the screen to me. Yeah. As a guy, when you see him, he's a fantastic player. But they don't really talk about him as one of those top tier linebackers in the league that much. Yeah. But the guy can go. You know what I mean? He can definitely go.
Put some respect on his name, man. He is and I think that he fits perfectly, especially now that the Bucs have Devin White, who I was a huge fan of coming out of LSU.
Yes.
Speaking of Luke Kuechly, like him and Thomas Davis, there was such a tandem. Like that was the best two middle linebackers playing next to each other in the NFL for a long time. Well, I really do think knowing you have Bush on the contract for a few more years, have David be on the team and pair him up and make them be a formidable linebacker for us. And you guys might have your very own Luke and Thomas Davis right there. So I think it was a good move.
I think that's a great point to bring up that a lot of people don't talk about. Lavonte David cleaned up I hate to say this to our Saints fans who love Quan Alexander, but David made a career out of basically cleaning up Quan's messes.
No,
And
understandable.
And then young Devin White. I mean, he wasn't as bad as Quan in terms of making mistakes, but David cleaned up a lot of mistakes for Devin too. And Devin's a very talented, and Quan's a very talented player. But like David, and what I tell people to, and I hate that the Pro Bowl did this for so long and they still continue to do it. If I am taking a 15-year-old freshman football player and he wants to play linebacker, I am showing him Luke Kuechly if he's a middle linebacker.
Yes.
And these are different positions for a lot of people, because a lot of people, it took Levante David to play middle linebacker to get any respect, to play that outside will linebacker. Those are they have similar skill sets, but they have there's a different way of just mentally approaching the game.
Yes. Right.
And where I think, Bobby Wagner and Luke Kuechly, they deserve everything that they've gotten. And yes, Levante David got the shit end of the stick, but I don't think if Levante were to go into, I'm not going to say he is going to the Hall of Fame or whatever, but if he were, I think it should be as an outside linebacker, non-pass rusher, and he shouldn't even have to be compared to Luke Kuechly or Bobby Wagner, but because they're all from the same amazing class, that it's just impossible not to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I cannot argue with that. I mean, just based on his body of work, I think one of his better seasons was under Gregg Schiano. What was that? 2012?
5 interceptions, 5 sacks, shit ton of tackles.
Yeah, he was just he was just
his only All-Pro besides last year, which he only got, is basically you and Devin White can get second team. Like. That was his only legitimate, really, first team All-Pro was that season. That's it.
So guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to give you guys final thoughts, but I'm going to go around. I'm going to start with you, Gregg. How many wins do you see your team could potentially getting? And I'm doing this. This is fun because we haven't even gotten into free agency. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm not going to personally do it but everybody else will go around. No, seriously. Just where this team is and what they could potentially do. How many wins do you see New Orleans going back to be the to defend that NFC South championship?
Well, I mean, they defended. They are defending it regardless anyway. Yeah. But let's see. Right now, because of the fact that we really don't have at this point, we're not set on quarterback. We don't know where we are there, so that's a huge number, huge situation there, and that's probably 4 wins right there that you would lose. I think, man, you know what? If they went,
let's do this. Let me do this. I'm gonna dial this back.
I'm gonna say pre-draft. I'm gonna say pre-draft. I'm gonna go optimistic on this one. I'm gonna go an optimistic. I'm gonna say 10-6.
Is that with Jameis or Hill at QB?
Jameis. I'm gonna say with Jameis. Let's say they sign Jameis. I think they can win 10 with Jameis. And like I said, really depending on that checkup from the neck up part. Yeah. That part, that's the big part for me.
I think Winston in Tampa did more with less. I don't think you need to have with Winston in Tampa. I think he did better in general with more. He did more with less talent around him. And I think if you just keep the offensive line and just have Michael Thomas and then just have people fill in roles like Winston, when he was throwing to Cam Brate and Adam Humphries, like that, those were Jameis's best games, like in general. So like, I think if you have that and he just doesn't turn it over, with a defense and you keep enough, like 9-10 wins to me is definitely not unrealistic.
And he still got a solid enough running game. And you think about it, you pretty much he can work the short game a lot more with Thomas and with Kamar and even Hill.
But Payne will make them.
Yeah, and he can take it long, and he can take it long too. So I don't know. I'm willing to say I'm willing to go 10 games.
All right, Cody.
Yes, sir.
All right. So same question for you. Just where do you see Carolina ending up at this season? And this is just based on what they have now and what they could potentially have. Where would just what do you think?
It's just so hard because
I know that's why I asked the question.
Well, and so much of it is contingent upon the quarterback position.
Yes.
Right.
So my answer with Justin Fields as our quarterback is much different than if it's Teddy Bridgewater or let alone Deshaun. So I mean, if I'll put it to you like this: if Teddy Bridgewater is on the team, and if McCaffrey is able to maintain a reasonable amount of health throughout the season, I think the Panthers are probably good for anywhere between 5 to 8 wins. And that's just being honest. I think Teddy Bridgewater, just being realistic, just limits what you can do on offense. I think if we were able to bolster our offensive line, we should do that no matter what, no matter who our quarterback is.
Always.
As we've all mentioned for our respective teams, like, you have to build the trenches. You have to pass protect. You have to be able to run block. And it's important that our offensive line does that. And I hope that's a part of our plans. If we're able to upgrade our quarterback position, I think our offense could be literally one of the most dynamic in the NFL. DJ Moore, I've always said, reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins, in that before he had Deshaun, he was always balling out and making plays, but he was never a name receiver. No one ever considered him amongst the upper echelon like Beckham and Julio and Antonio. But then, they brought in a quarterback, and all of a sudden, DeAndre Hopkins is this world beater. I think you're going to see something similar with young DJ Moore. DJ Moore is an incredible talent at the receiver position. And I think that if you're able to get a quarterback that can hit him consistently and routinely, and you have Robbie Anderson, and you might be able to draft somebody this year, we might have one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL. And that's not even including McCaffrey. And that's a whole nother element to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think our Panthers have a young defense, and Phil Snow, we're getting better. We were kind of limited personnel wise last year, but I think over the course of this next offseason, you're going to see a much more vivacious Panthers defense as well.
There you go. I like that. And I'm looking at this team with a Christian McCaffrey at least minimum 8-8. Minimum.
Yeah, I think 7-9, 8-8 is if the Panthers finish there. I think you have to see that as a successful, building upon what you have season, depending on especially what you do at quarterback. I think 7-8 wins is,
down, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was when he said 5. I was actually kind of shocked. Even with Teddy, I was just like, wow, I think this is a 7-win solid team that's going to lose some games against some really good opponents, but they're going to beat some. Yeah, they're going to beat some teams that they should beat, and then they're going to beat a couple teams that people don't expect them to.
Yeah.
All
We should have won more this year. We had
you had the opportunities.
There were 8 games for the Panthers in which we lost by a field goal or less. So a bunch of them could have gone our way.
Those are killers. Killers. I hate Saints
sounds
went
like
through
the
that
Bucks
2008
over the past 4 years.
When the Saints had their 7-9 and 8-8 seasons,
you'll
see 5 or 6, 7 games where they lost less than a touchdown. It's heartbreaking.
It really is, and it just has you pissed off until the next year.
Like what could have happened?
And then you see the teams like the Seahawks.
That game pops into your head, you're pissed off again.
Well, and then you think of teams like the Seahawks that
to this day.
I was going to say teams like the Seahawks that are consistently 60, 70% of winning those 1-score 3-point games. And it's just like, when is that luck ever just going to die? Because every other team faces the opposite.
That pendulum has to swing the other way eventually.
It's going to swing, baby. It's going to swing.
All right, KB.
Yeah, and then with the Bucks, I think that people are going to have way too high of expectations. And I think if people are coming in with 13, 14, 15 wins, I think they're going to set them up. And Bucks fans did it last year, set them up for disappointment. I came in the last year thinking that this was
having to talk people off the ledge all year, man. Yeah, but go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say last year, I thought with Tom Brady, they were just going to come up, swing in, week 1, maybe not even win that game, but show that, they were ready. Well, no, it took them literally the entire season into the playoffs to figure that out. I think, the Bucks, if you are able to just be around that 11 to 13 win mark, enough to win the division, enough to host the playoff game and not play all 3 of them on the road and 1 at home. But if you're able to just take one or two of those at home, because I think the Packers have a really easy division. So even if you're just that 2 through 4 seed, just get there, as we learned with the Bucs last year. Get there, be happy. I think I have a bold prediction for next year out, and I'm going to get a lot of hate on Twitter for it. I think the Bucs are going to lose to the New England Patriots, and I think they're going to lose games that Bucs fans are going to be pissed off about. They're going to drop one to maybe New Orleans, and they're just going to be pissed, and they're going to let that sour worms just ruin what is great, and they should just be paying attention on the Bucs. Should just come into next season, beat the teams that they need to beat. Like we said, win those 3-point games like the New York Giants game last year. All of those small wins, had a big play in what happened in the seeding. So if I'm the Bucs, I am just hoping, and I think that they will be at the 12-win mark again. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are going to be they're 11 last year. Take that 1-win improvement, be happy, take a home playoff game or two, and just be happy. Don't freak out, Bucs fans.
Yeah, and enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, and just enjoy everything that's going on right now.
And enjoy your 5 primetime games. The second year in a row, 4 last year because they took away the Raiders game. But enjoy your 5 primetime games, fans. Don't put too much expectations.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This is kind of special. This was special to me. I really wanted to get everybody's opinion. Cody, Gregg, Scott was on for a little bit. KB. I want to get you guys back on. If you guys are willing to come back on, the listeners love these, actually.
Sure. I think after the draft, this is like a must.
Yeah. I would love to get you guys back on after the draft, maybe a week or so after, so you can see what's going to happen. Yes. And let's talk about what your team looks like now going into camp, OTAs, so on and so on. You guys willing to do that?
I'm down, man. I had so much fun.
I'm game.
Man. Oh, man, thank you so much. This was really great. I can't tell you, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody's looking forward to this. We were on. I want to thank Bucs Report for allowing us to do this. A lot of people are going to see this and they're like, man, we missed this, but this was a lot of fun. I picked it for Thursday too. We could talk as long as we wanted to, and I'm excited. I think you guys really have the pulse of your team. And, I tend to listen to you guys to, get an idea of what's going on. So, yeah, right after the draft, I don't know what you guys are doing for the draft. I think C3 podcast is definitely doing something. They do something for the draft every year. Yes. And I think you guys still getting all 32 members from all 32 teams on?
We try and have a large number of fans and teams, guys from other teams to come on and talk about their draft picks. We're definitely going to do something, but I will happily come on and do a draft show. I'm also the Panthers analyst at drafttech.com. I write the first and second. I write the first and second round draft picks for the Carolina Panthers, the Houston Texans as well.
Subtle plugs this guy. I love it.
I know.
Yeah, man. I've been working hard on that website for a few years, so I gotta. Yeah, man, definitely, and follow me on Twitter too. At Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I love doing draft. On our channel, I've been doing a lot of film breakdowns on a bunch of different prospects. I've already done Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. I'm going to do a Zach Wilson, and then I'm going to start getting into more of the positional players. So, I mean, these are players that any team has the potential to draft too. So if you're looking at some film breakdown, check out C3. And I'm always down to talk anything draft. Anytime you'd like to have me on, man, I'm ready to do it.
Hey, yeah, we're gonna make this happen again, man. Great follow.
Gene will take advantage of that. Let me tell you. This guy up here broadcasts, no joke, like 4 days a week. Like he will fit you in on one of those time slots, guaranteed.
Gene's my man. Every time we have Gene on our show, he's always one of our favorite guests. We don't even care that he's up with the division rival team. Gene's the man.
He's just too cool, man.
He's got to go in with respect.
He's like Cool Hand Gene, you know. Just laid back. He always has like the right things to say, and it's just beautiful, man.
Hey, Gregg Barber, come on, man. You got to get back to writing, bro. Call up USA Today and say, hey, put me in, coach. Something, man, because you're too talented to not be writing right now, bro.
Well, like I said, I've been pondering that about getting back to writing or doing a podcast of my own. So doing like a Saints podcast.
Yeah.
So
definitely, man.
Yeah.
And hey, do it, and we'll give you a shout out too. We'll invite you
Sounds
on
good.
and pump up
Awesome.
the podcast, man.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, guys, I'm gonna get out of here, but again, this has been fun. We can kind of look back on this one, and we'll get ready for right after the draft, and we'll revisit this, man. Thanks a lot, guys. You guys have a great night, and listeners, thank you so much.
Thanks for the audience.
Peace and love, everybody.